The Hells Angels don't make friends easily, and they've certainly made some fearsome enemies. But there's no need to fear bumping into these rivals on a daily walk. Most are tucked away in maximum security or laying low, leaving the Angels to rule the roads. Yet, the streets whisper tales of these menacing foes and their legendary clashes with the Angel, the real story behind the Hells Angel. Back in 1948, in a California spot called Fontana, a group of bikers decided to start a club. This wasn't just any club though. It was the Hells Angels Motorcycle Club. Now that name might ring a bell, right? It's because they've become a big deal, not just in the States, but all over the world. The Hells Angels aren't your average bike lovers. They've made quite a name for themselves, and not always in a good way. Cops everywhere know them, and not because they're helping little old ladies cross the street. In places like Thunder Bay, even though you might not see a Hells Angel, their shadow is long. People talk, stories spread, and their reputation makes sure they're felt even without being seen. The feds, the guys who go after the big fish, label the Hells Angels as an outlaw motorcycle gang. They've got a ripple effect on other biker gangs too. The way they strut their stuff, they keep their grip on things with a mix of fear and respect. It's become a blueprint for others. But some gangs seem to be getting out of the line, giving Hells Angels one hell of a fight. The road rivalry. In a corner of the Netherlands back in 1990, a group of 9 friends, most of them with Moluccan roots, fired up their bikes and started something big. They called their club Satudara, which means one blood in Indonesian Malay. Their emblem, a proud Moluccan warrior, said a lot about their identity and unity. The club grew, reaching out across borders and making a name for itself far and wide. But in 2018, the Dutch government dropped the hammer, banning Satudara. The reason? They were tied up in some pretty nasty business like drug deals, throwing their weight around for cash and getting their hands dirty in violent crime. Now, these guys weren't the only ones on the block. The Hells Angels, the notorious kings of the biker scene, had been ruling the roost since way back. They didn't take kindly to Satudara's rise. The new club on the scene meant competition, and in the world of outlaw bikers, that spelled trouble. The trouble started simmering in the early 90s. Satudara wanted a piece of the action, a slice of the biking world that the Hells Angels considered theirs alone. A turf war for the ages kicked off, and it wasn't going to be settled with just harsh words. Through the mid-90s, things got heated. Allies of Satudara, the Bandidos, landed a heavy punch, beating up a couple of Hells Angels in Denmark. That brawl blew up into a full-blown biker war that raged for 3 years, with bullets and bombs flying between the Angels and their enemies, which now included Satudara. It didn't stop there. Over the years, the feud kept on boiling. Amsterdam saw a Satudara guy fall to a Hells Angels bullet, sparking a nasty tit-for-tat that had the city on edge. Then, IJ Muiden witnessed a deadly knife fight, with the victim a Hells Angel, leading to a big police crackdown. The bad blood spilled over the border into Germany. Duisburg and Kiel became flashpoints where gunfire shattered the peace, leaving members wounded and dead. Back in the Netherlands, the city of Enschede became a battleground for drug turf, resulting in more shootouts. However, in a surprising twist, whispers of a truce started to circulate. In 2019, there were talks that the Hells Angels, Satudara, and even the Bandidos had decided enough was enough. But in a world where trust is thin and honor is backed by force, who can say if peace will last? Biker bloodlines. In the sun-baked streets of Montebello, California, back in 1969, a new kind of family was born, the Mongols Motorcycle Club. It was a group stitched together by Hispanic vets who were turned away by the Hells Angels, creating their own brotherhood on the back of motorcycles. These guys had a rep. They were the outlaws of the biking world, caught up in the kind of trouble that gets you on the wrong side of the law. Then came the spark that set off a wildfire. The Mongols slapped a California patch on their jackets, a bold claim that they owned the Golden State. To the Hells Angels, the top dogs of the California biker scene, that was a slap in the face. They wore the state's name too, and they weren't about to share. What followed was a clash over the streets, the market, and the code of the road. The dust-ups between these two clubs weren't your average bar fights. They were full-blown battles. Take San Diego in '77. A swap meet turned into a war zone with 100 Mongols and 50 Hells Angels going at it with every weapon they could swing. When the smoke cleared, 2 men succumbed to their grim fate, and a bunch of others were licking their wounds. Fast forward to '82, in a little place called Lenox. Here, the Hells Angels decided to send a message, loud and clear. They rolled up on the Mongols in a pizza parlor, and when the shooting stopped, 5 men were gone for good. The courts handed down life sentences, but that didn't close the book on the bad blood. Then there was Laughlin, Nevada in 2002. During a big biker rally, the casino at Harrah's turned into a battlefield. 60 men, Mongols and Angels, tore into each other with fists, knives, and guns. 3 didn't walk out, and a dozen more were left counting their lucky stars they made it through. 6 years later, the feds went all in with Operation Black Rain. They got inside the Mongols' world, came out with cuffs and charges for 79 guys, and tried to snatch their very symbol, the patch they wore with pride. The Mongols weren't having it. They fought tooth and nail in court and kept their patch riding on their backs. The streets of Sturgis, usually rumbling with the sound of bikes, echoed with gunshots in 2011. A Mongol and a Hell's Angel, each with a finger on the trigger, didn't care who else was around. Both bikers and an innocent person got hit. Word spread like wildfire that this could blow up into something nobody could control. In Australia, far from California's turf, there were whispers of a truce in 2013, but the road's long and full of turns. And now let's talk about the most dangerous enemy of Hell's Angels, the turf wars. In the year when the sound of rock and roll was getting louder, 1959 in Maryland, a new brotherhood emerged, the Pagans Motorcycle Club. Founded by Lou Dobkin and his buddies, the Pagans quickly became known as the bad boys of the biking world, running afoul of the law on more than one occasion. But it wasn't until the 1970s that things really heated up. The Pagans, hungry for more room to ride, began to push into the East Coast. New Jersey, Pennsylvania, and New York became their stomping grounds. But the Hells Angels, the infamous lords of the biker realm, didn't take kindly to the newcomers. To them, the Pagans were stepping on sacred ground. This rivalry wasn't just about who rode on which streets. It was about pride, respect, and the unspoken rules of the road. The clashes that broke out were nothing short of brutal. One dark day in Newark, 1979, a motorcycle show turned into a battleground. A disagreement over a vendor spot escalated, and suddenly 300 bikers from both clubs were locked in combat. The fight claimed 7 lives and left many injured. This wasn't just a brawl, it was a statement, a declaration of war. Then there was the Long Island Diner in '82, where a calculated ambush by the Hells Angels that unalived 5 pagans. It was a cold-blooded act that landed the Angels behind bars for life. But even those steel bars couldn't contain the feud. The rivalry raged on, and in 2002 it spilled over into the casinos of Laughlin, Nevada. A meeting during a motorcycle rally turned into a deadly riot, with bikers clashing in a scene so violent it was caught on camera for the world to see. 3 lives were lost, and the call for justice was loud. Fast forward to 2020 on the streets of Cape Cod. Over 100 men from both sides clashed violently over turf rights. The fight was savage, with knives and blunt instruments. The echo of the brawl raised alarms across the nation, hinting at a war that could erupt at any moment. The scars of these battles mark the flesh and souls of the Pagans and the Hells Angels. They are constant reminders of the divide that runs as deep as the engines are loud. Yet, despite this enduring enmity, there have been fleeting moments when a ceasefire seemed possible, like the whispered truce in Australia in 2013. The road ahead is uncertain, but one thing is clear. The rivalry between the Pagans and the Hells Angels is a tale with no end in sight. What do you think lies in the future for Hells Angels? Will these enemies take them down? Let us know in the comments below. We will see you in the next one.